Okay, so yesterday we got some new Mass Effect Andromeda footage, including tons of new ships, so let's take a look. First up, we have our first look at the new player ship in Andromeda, the Tempest. I really like this design. It's clearly a Systems Alliance vessel, and takes some design cues from both previous Normandies. The ship has a very low profile, perhaps only 2 or 3 decks high, and although I can't tell its exact size, it's clearly closer to the size of the SR-1 than it is to the SR-2, perhaps even smaller. Also interesting to note is that the ship does not bear a registry code or SSV prefix. It's simply the Tempest, perhaps implying that the force travelling to Andromeda is not considering itself to be part of the Alliance Navy, or maybe that the crew of the Tempest are freelance, much like the Alliance Corsairs mentioned in the original trilogy. Now we can see what is most likely the bridge or CIC of the Tempest. Here we can see that they've kept the Turian-inspired structure of having the commander stand at a podium in the centre rather than sitting on a captain's chair. On the left we can see what's almost certainly a Krogan, and on the right a Solarian. Unless these are both main characters, then it looks like the entire Tempest crew is multiracial, which makes sense given the conclusion of Mass Effect 3. Once again, I'm a big fan of this design, right up at the ship's bow with a huge viewport. Really shows the kind of exploration theme that they're going for in this installment. This next shot shows the Tempest in atmosphere, so if the fins and tail planes were not proof enough, then this confirms that the ship can indeed fly in a planet's atmosphere. So we're not going to be needing any shuttles on this ship. And she even looks like she's small enough to maybe pull off some fairly impressive maneuvers in Atmo in case we get to see any dogfights in the game. Here we can see the Tempest not only landed, but landed on a body that clearly lacks atmosphere. This is pretty cool because it means our ship is going to be parked somewhere on the map when we're exploring uncharted planets rather than sitting in orbit, a little like Elite Dangerous Horizons. I can only assume the Tempest has various pressurized chambers and airlocks for deploying personnel and cargo onto a planet like this. I'm hoping we might get to see some really small planetoids or moons with low gravity, so that the ship will have to use some kind of drills on its landing claws or something to attach itself to the planet's surface. Then maybe we get some awesome zero-G spacesuit gameplay. Now we can see the return of the Mako, clearly a much newer model than the M35, and this time being deployed from the landed Tempest rather than space dropped from orbit. This makes a lot of sense. I mean, the original SR-1 Normandy was capable of flying in atmosphere, so I'm not sure why they ever went through the hassle of dropping the Mako from orbit and making sure it was properly heat shielded and stuff when they could have just hovered down and dropped it off. I mean, they had to come down when they picked it up anyway, so surely dropping the vehicle is only worth doing tactically, like when they drop it onto Ilos. So here we can see a vessel of some description. It appears to be a completely new design, but let me know in the comments if you recognise it. Its engines suggest it's capable of FTL, but I can only guess as to the ship's function, perhaps some kind of freighter or troop transport based purely on its silhouette. Okay, so now here's a shot of a clearly highly populated planet with several Alliance Kilimanjaro-class dreadnoughts orbiting it. If I had to guess, I'd say this is Earth, purely because if the fleet sent to Andromeda does succeed in colonising a planet, then I doubt they would put it in the trailer, so this is most likely near the beginning of the game, before the expedition leaves. Now we can see a new version of the Kodiak shuttlecraft, perhaps the UT-47B or UT-48. Now they have some larger engines mounted on the dorsal aft, and a slightly tougher looking hull. I'm a big fan of this design. It's already probably my favourite of the 3 Kodiak variants. The fact that the Systems Alliance has a new type of shuttle that they didn't use at the Battle of Earth seems to shoot down the theories that the fleet leaves before the Reaper invasion, so we could at least briefly get to see Earth as it is after the Reaper War. Okay, so for this big final shot we get to see the massive Ark ships that we're going to be going to Andromeda in. Now these are really interesting. They're clearly massive and they don't seem to match up to the design style of any Citadel race. It could be that they're a collaborative design from all the races, but it should be said that they do look a lot like the Citadel and the mass relays. It's possible that they were built with cannibalized parts from the Crucible or from destroyed relays. It's obvious that these things can carry a lot of people and probably a lot of ships. Whether they're armed, I'm not sure, but one thing we can assume is that if they're going to travel to the Andromeda Galaxy, they must have some pretty powerful engines. Though, based on the final moments of this trailer, I'd say we're probably going to be going to the Andromeda Galaxy with cryogenically frozen passengers. So it could be many hundreds or even thousands of years have elapsed by the time they arrive. Another thing worth mentioning is that the N7 Day trailer showed only one Ark on its journey to Andromeda, and there are 2 in this image, one moored at another space dock in the background. So perhaps this Ark won't make it to Andromeda. Okay, so that's my brief look at the new ships and tech we got to see in this trailer. Let me know if I missed anything below, and you can be assured that Spacedock will be covering a lot more Andromeda stuff in the coming months as it becomes available. Thanks for watching.